She walked into her penthouse far earlier than anyone expected. No guards, no assistants, just silence, the kind that warns you something is wrong. Then she saw him, her janitor, standing in the middle of her living room, shaking, holding something against his chest. His eyes widened in terror when he realized she was home. She opened her mouth to speak, but he lifted a trembling finger and whispered, "Please, don't speak." Her heart stopped. No one had ever dared speak to her like that. She was one of the most powerful women in the city. But when she saw what he was holding, she felt the floor disappear beneath her. Because that object belonged to someone she thought she had lost forever. And this janitor, this quiet, invisible man, knew something that could break her world open. And tonight, he finally decided to tell her the truth. She froze in the doorway, her breath catching the moment she saw him. Her janitor, the quiet man no one ever noticed, was standing in her living room, trembling like he'd seen a ghost. In his hands lay the small silver bracelet she thought had vanished the night her daughter did. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs as memories she fought to forget rushed back. Nothing in her billion-dollar world had ever prepared her for this moment, and for the first time in years, she felt fear. He looked at her as if speaking might shatter something fragile between them. His voice cracked when he whispered, "Please, don't say a word," pleading rather than commanding. No one had ever dared talk to her like that, not employees, not investors, not even rivals. But there was something raw in his eyes, something that made her skin prickle. Like he wasn't trying to silence her, he was trying to protect her. Her legs weakened as she stepped closer, unable to stop herself. She hadn't touched that bracelet in 4 long years. 4 years of nightmares, doubt, and unanswered questions. Seeing it again felt like standing on the edge of a cliff she'd sworn she'd never return to. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Where did you get that?" The janitor swallowed hard, gaze dropping to the floor. And in that silence, she realized whatever he was about to tell her would change everything.
He didn't answer her right away. His hands shook so violently that the bracelet almost slipped from his fingers. "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight," he finally whispered, eyes darting toward the door as if someone might be listening. "I got a letter telling me to clean your penthouse at this exact time." Her stomach tightened. No one, absolutely no one, knew her schedule tonight. The fear inside her twisted into something colder, sharper. "What letter?" she pressed, voice trembling. He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, crumpled, stained, handled too many times. "There was something inside," he murmured, placing the bracelet on top with a reverence that broke her heart. "I didn't want to open it, but the handwriting looked familiar." Her breath caught. She wasn't ready to hear a familiar name, not tonight. The janitor swallowed, his voice barely holding together. At the bottom, there was a message meant only for you. Her pulse pounded in her ears as he opened the envelope with trembling fingers. "A stranger didn't send this," he said quietly, eyes locking onto hers. "This came from someone who knew your daughter, someone who knew what happened." A chill ran down her spine, freezing her where she stood. He hesitated, as if afraid the truth might crush her. Then he whispered. The letter said, "Tell her the truth, I never could." She sank onto the edge of the sofa, her strength draining as the words echoed in her mind. For years, she lived like a machine, running companies, winning battles, burying pain. But this letter ripped open a wound she never truly healed.
Her daughter's name pulsed in her chest like a bruise she couldn't touch. The janitor watched her, guilt carving deep lines across his face. He whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you, but you deserve to know." She forced herself to breathe, steadying her shaking hands. "What do you know about my daughter?" she asked, her voice barely holding together. He hesitated, then slowly sat across from her, as if the truth required closeness. "I didn't realize it was connected to you," he admitted softly. "But I remember that night, the storm, the police, and a woman crying so hard it echoed." Her heart tightened. She had forgotten how loud her grief was. "You were there?" she whispered, her eyes widening. He nodded, tears welling in his eyes, not for himself, but for her. "I didn't know who you were back then. You didn't look like a billionaire. You looked like a mother losing her whole world." Her breath hitched, a tremor running through her body. "And I saw something," he added, voice barely above a whisper. "Something the police never believed, and something I never forgot." He lowered his gaze as if afraid of the memory itself. "That night, I was cleaning the maintenance shed near the park," he said slowly. "It was late, past midnight. The storm was getting worse." She felt her chest tighten. She remembered that storm like it was carved into her bones. He inhaled shakily, gathering courage he didn't know he had. "And then I saw a man carrying a child wrapped in a blanket." Her breath stopped completely. The room seemed to shrink around her as she leaned forward, gripping the edge of the seat. "You saw her?" she whispered, barely able to form the words. "I didn't know it was your daughter," he said, voice trembling. "But she was small, quiet, too quiet." Her pulse hammered as she imagined the scene he described. "I reported it," he continued, bitterness surfacing in his voice. "The police brushed it off. They thought I was confused, just a janitor making noise." She clenched her jaw. She knew too well how people ignored the ones they considered insignificant. He rubbed his palms together, guilt pouring out of him. "But the man's face, his silhouette, I never forgot it." He lifted his eyes to hers, frightened, honest, breaking. "And I swear, I saw someone you know." Her whole body went still, as if the air had been pulled from the room. Someone she knew? Someone close? She forced her voice out, barely more than a whisper. "Who was it?" The janitor's eyes filled with fear, not for himself, but for her. "I don't want to say it wrong," he murmured, shaking his head. "But when the lightning flashed, I recognized the outline." She braced herself, fingers curling into fists. The man was tall, broad shoulders, walked like he owned every room he entered. Her breath quickened. She knew that posture too well. And when he turned, even from far away, he swallowed hard, eyes lowering as if ashamed to speak the truth. "I saw the same birthmark, the one your brother has." The world around her blurred, tilting sideways as she staggered back. Her brother, the only family she trusted, the man who held her while she cried, the man who promised he never left her side the night her daughter disappeared. Her chest tightened painfully, betrayal slicing deep into old wounds. The janitor reached toward her, then froze, unsure if she wanted comfort or distance. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "but I think he took her, and he wasn't alone." Her knees weakened as the truth crashed into her, but the janitor wasn't finished. He reached into his pocket with trembling fingers and pulled out a second envelope, older, softer, edges worn by time. "I didn't want to show you this until you were ready," he murmured. Her pulse pounded as she recognized the handwriting instantly. Her brother's handwriting. The same loops, the same slant, the same lies she once trusted. She unfolded the letter with shaking hands, the paper crackling like it carried ghosts. Each word hit her like a blade. Apologies, regrets, half-confessions, and a truth he never had the courage to speak. He took her because he thought she wasn't safe, the janitor explained softly. Because someone else, someone even closer, was planning something worse. Her breath hitched, the room spinning as she reached the last line. Ask the man who never stopped watching. Her eyes lifted slowly, confusion mixing with fear. The janitor stepped back, shaking his head as if refusing the idea himself. I didn't understand it at first, he whispered. But then I remembered, your daughter spoke to me that night. He pressed a hand to his chest, voice breaking. She didn't cry for help. She said my name. Her phone buzzed, a soft vibration that cut through the silence like a scream. An unknown number, a trembling hand, a breath she wasn't sure she could take. She answered, expecting nothing but another dead end. But then a tiny voice came through, small and broken, yet unmistakably hers. Mom, he said you'd find me. Her heart collapsed, the sob that escaped her raw and uncontrollable. The janitor froze, tears filling his eyes as he watched her crumble in front of him. He didn't try to speak. He just let her lean into the truth she'd been dying to hear for 4 years. In that moment, he wasn't a janitor. He was the man who remembered, who stayed, who listened, the man her daughter trusted in the darkest night of her life. Her trembling hands reached for him, not out of fear, but out of gratitude too deep for words. You saved her, she whispered. You saved us both. The weight of everything finally fell away as she stepped into the light of a future she thought she'd lost. He guided her toward the door, toward the place her daughter was waiting, toward a life she could finally begin again. Not as the billionaire who owned everything, but as a mother who got back the only thing she truly loved. As they walked out together, she looked at him with a softness she'd buried for years. And for the first time, he didn't see himself as invisible. He saw himself as the man who brought a family back to life.